Number 100. This marshmallow, graham cracker, and chocolate snack kept Tennessee coal miners on the job. The moon pie. Inventor Earl Mitchell Sr. invented the moon pie in 1917 as a portable snack that could be taken into the mines. Paired with a cola, the moon pie soon became a cheap lunch that helped America's workforce make it through the Depression. Number 99 is known as the fruit of kings. Pineapple rings. In 1661, traders petitioned the King of England not to raise taxes on sugar imports. To help seal the deal, they included an exotic gift with their request, a pineapple. The tactic worked, spurring Britain's rise as a maritime trading power in the Caribbean. Legend has it this meal of raw meat was invented by Genghis Khan and his army. Number 98 is steak tartare. Steak tartare allowed the Mongol or Tartar army to travel great distances.
The way the Tartars made their meat was food on the go, because they would use horse flesh, they would put it under the saddle, they would travel for a day, that would tenderize it.
Genghis Khan swept across Asia, establishing the largest empire in human history, covering 16% of the Earth's total land area. If the doctor prescribes food number 97, we promise he's not just selling you fluff. The marshmallow. Since ancient times, the marshmallow plant was used to treat everything from skin irritation to infections. It was also discovered that the root of the plant could be processed into a sweet confection. Unfortunately, today's marshmallows are made from 100% sugar, so the only thing they'll help you cure is your sweet tooth. On to number 96. Without this fast food, American music may never have gotten into the groove. It's chitlins. Chitlins are cooked pig intestines and were a food of last resort for starving slaves.
It was one of those foods that was discarded by the master class of the elites. So the term that we talk about eating high on the hog, this is an example of eating low on the hog, out of necessity.
With a texture like calamari and a smell that can assault the senses, chitlins are not for everyone.
People that love them love the taste. People can't stand them, they can't stand the smell.
Chitlins' popularity as a soul food was cemented in the 20th century, and they became the namesake of a scene that changed popular music forever.
There were a whole circuit of venues from the Deep South all the way to places like New York that were known as part of the chitlin circuit.
These black-owned clubs gave many musical legends their start in the segregated South.
You could walk in and find Ray Charles performing. You could find Little Richard. You could find even Jimi Hendrix.
And after the show, artists could hunker down for a meal, giving guys like James Brown the soul power needed to get to the next gig. Fast food number 95 changed the great outdoors forever. It's the s'more. This trifecta of gooey goodness was invented on a Girl Scout expedition in 1927. Now it's the first camping food for millions of kids. That adds up to a lot of people asking for some more. Before it was a cute pet, number 94 was a South American fast food. The guinea pig. This fluffy rodent has been a source of protein for the people of the Andes for thousands of years.
It's hard for Americans to imagine eating something that was your, fourth grade class pet.
The guinea pig? Really, a guinea pig? Who's gonna eat a guinea pig?
During the 16th century, enslaved Incans ate jerky from guinea pigs as they extracted enough gold and silver to power the Spanish economy for almost a century. Number 93 is a summertime treat that helped kick off the fresh produce industry. Strawberries and cream. In 1867, demand for this dessert prompted the first attempt to transport fruit by refrigerated rail car. The successful experiment made it possible to ship fresh produce across America, bringing seasonal fruits and veggies to our dinner plate year-round. At number 92, our fast foods blue ribbon panel chose the sticky, sweet, fun food of carnival goers everywhere, cotton candy. Invented in Nashville, Tennessee in 1897, the cotton candy machine gave us the power to transform plain sugar into silky strands of sweetness.
Cotton candy, it's so weird because it's basically just sugar and air. It's kind of amazing that they get it to do that.
So how does the cotton candy machine work? Sugar is poured into a heating element, melted, and spun at high speed. Centrifugal force pushes the liquid syrup through tiny holes, creating strands of sugar glass only a millionth of a meter wide. In 2009, a researcher at Cornell University noticed these tiny filaments of sugar resembled the structure of the human capillary system. It has opened the door to huge advancements in the development of artificial human organs. Number 91 is a New England classic that's giving the hot dog a run for its money. The lobster roll. Lobster was considered a low-class food until 1910, when business tycoon John D. Rockefeller mistakenly ate and loved a bowl of his servant's lobster stew while summering in Maine. Today, this crustacean has come full circle. Lower demand and record catches have made wholesale lobster cheap enough to fuel a new fast food phenomenon. Number 90 gave mainstream America its first true candy on the go, the Tootsie Roll. Invented in 1896 by New York City candy shop owner Leo Hirschfeld, this rugged little candy actually saved American lives at the Battle of Chosin Reservoir during the Korean War.
The temperature was 20 degrees below zero most of the time. Food was not easy to come by simply because they were surrounded.
With the Chinese army closing in, the embattled Marines radioed for more Tootsie Rolls, a code word for ammunition. Unfortunately, the novice radio operator on the other end didn't know the lingo.
Folks back at Supply hear Tootsie Rolls, and they assume that the call is for Tootsie Rolls, and they assemble thousands.
A few hours later, canisters of candy began to fall from the sky. But the mistake proved to be a lifesaver.
They were loaded with sugar, and sugar gave them energy. Now that helped them in that fight back to the sea.
Of course, if those guys in Korea had just waited long enough, the Tootsie Rolls would have become hard enough to be used as ammo.
We're counting down the 101 fast foods that changed the world. We put together a panel of 14 of the country's top food fanatics to consider what makes a truly great fast food.
I think the things on this list really reflect a sort of world cultural view about what is good to eat on the go.
You may have one hand that's, having your drink, one hand with the sandwich. Maybe you're trying to text while doing all that at the same time. Fast food needs to be fast enough to keep up with everything you're trying to do in your day.
So hunker down and get ready for another helping of the 101 fast foods that changed the world. Number 89. It's been called nature's most perfect food for both its nutritional value and its packaging. The egg. We've been gathering and boiling eggs since the dawn of time. Once man finally domesticated the chicken about 5,000 years ago, we had a reliable source of protein with a protective case that we could carry anywhere. Our Blue Ribbon panel voted number 88 the go-to fast food for the calorie conscious. It's the rice cake. At only 50 calories each, it takes about 20 rice cakes to equal a bacon double cheeseburger, making them the lowest calorie food on this list. With just 0.4 grams of fat per cake, they fill us up without adding pounds, giving generations of dieters a fighting chance to reduce their waistline. Coming in at number 87 is a Southern favorite, the Hush Puppy. This deep-fried ball of cornmeal most certainly originated in the American South and helped escaping slaves make it to freedom. As they moved along the Underground Railroad, slaves fed them to tracking dogs and pleaded with them to hush, puppy. Number 86 was one of our most important culinary inventions. Condensed milk. In the mid-19th century, fresh milk was transported in unsanitary wooden barrels that often caused illness. But in 1854, Gale Borden changed all that when he developed a condensed milk in a can. By boiling out water content and sealing the thickened milk in a bacteria-free container, we now had a portable version of milk that helped save lives. Confucius once said, "He who finishes Chinese food is rewarded with number 85. The fortune cookie. Introduced at the turn of the 20th century, the fortune cookie has become a kitschy American icon.
Kids and adults alike love to crack into that thing. It's a tasty cookie, and you can win the lotto.
It's the only thing I can think of, except maybe a birthday cake, where the food is telling you something.
But where do all the fortunes come from? The answer you seek is at Wonton Foods in New York City.
When I was writing fortunes, the ideas came from everywhere, from TV shows to my kids, to people in the street.
Donald Lau penned over 2,000 of the messages now found in Wonton's fortune cookies.
Bring something up from the back burner. Don't be afraid of fear.
In March 2005, 110 Powerball ticket holders all struck pay dirt with numbers traced back to one of Lau's fortunes.
I was sitting in my office that morning and we started getting phone calls from the network. That's how I found out that someone won the lotto.
Every year, about 3 billion fortune cookies are made in the U.S. That's enough Chinese wisdom and lottery numbers to fill about 44 supertankers. The chances of another payout like that are astronomical. But don't let that dissuade you from playing Lau's numbers again.
Beat faith, eliminates fear.
Number 84 is one of the few fast foods that is made in almost every culture in the world. It's rice pudding. It's no wonder. Rice is the most widely eaten food on the planet. Today, almost 700 billion tons are harvested across the globe each year. So the next time you grab a rice pudding, chances are better than any other food on this list that there's someone else on the planet digging into. These crispy bits of fried pork skin and fat were first made in 19th century working class England. Number 83 is the pork rind. In modern times, their fat content and light weight has made them an essential high-calorie snack for polar explorers, giving them the energy needed to keep going in sub-zero temperatures. They were a favorite snack of David Hempelman Adams, who became the first person ever to reach both poles and climb the highest peaks in all 7 continents. Number 82 became a smash hit when America went on the wagon. It's applesauce. In the mid-19th century, hard apple cider was the most popular alcoholic beverage in the country. But when Prohibition hit in 1920, cider makers turned to applesauce as a way to make ends meet. Today, applesauce is the most popular canned fruit on the market. Number 81 is the fast food that keeps on giving. Turkey leftovers. Every Thanksgiving, Americans buy almost 700 million pounds of turkey. It has transformed a one-day holiday into the week-long ritual of food reinvention we have today.
Turkey is one of those things that has a lot of lives. The fun begins day 3 or 4 after Thanksgiving.
To fuel our love of leftovers, poultry farms are breeding bigger and bigger birds, with the average turkey now weighing in at a whopping 28 pounds. It seems the rest of the world may have a jump on us by eating food number 80. The grasshopper.
They're cheap, they're everywhere, and you never know when you might end up in an 80s POW movie like Chuck Norris, and that's the only thing that's on the menu.
While insects aren't a mainstream food in America, chefs like Joe Raffa of Oyamel in Washington, D.C. are changing that perception, serving tacos piled high with sautéed grasshoppers.
Nutritionally, grasshoppers are a wonderful food. They are high in protein, low in fat, so they will keep you going for a long time.
Eating bugs not your bag? Well, that puts you in the minority. 4 out of every 5 people on the planet have eaten bugs by choice. Yet only about 20% of the world eats beef as a source of protein.
Grasshoppers and insects have allowed the world to evolve. They've been a protein source for civilizations all over the globe.
Ancient Romans and Greeks ate insects, and the Aztecs of central Mexico depended on bugs for protein.
Without them, would people have prospered like they have? Probably not. It's allowed us to become what we are today.
Still not convinced? Consider this. In the next 40 years, we will need to increase food production by 70% to meet global demand. And pound for pound, grasshoppers contain 3 times as much protein as beef. So maybe it's time to hop to it and get hip to the grasshopper. Number 79 is a cold salad that rules the hot summer season. It's potato salad. German immigrants brought a warm version of potato salad to America in the early 1800s, meant to be eaten hot. By the late 19th century, recipes began to emerge for a potato salad made from cold leftover spuds. With the arrival of mayonnaise on store shelves in 1907, the transformation of potato salad into a refreshing American summer classic was complete. When Mother Nature throws the works at you, it might be wise to stock up on food number 78. Pop-Tarts. When Kellogg's unveiled their radical new toaster pastry in 1964, it gave us the power to grab breakfast and go. But how has it changed the world? Ask the people who rode out Hurricane Irene in August 2011. As the monster storm bore down on the East Coast, sales of Pop-Tarts increased sevenfold at some stores, putting them up there with the battery and the flashlight as top-selling emergency supplies. We're counting down 101 fast foods that changed the world. From the tastiest snacks Mother Nature has to offer to mouth-watering morsels of modern engineering that have transformed the way we eat. Fast food number 77 helps get us over the hump, even when that hump is Mount Everest. The Energy Bar. From the pro athlete to the multitasking mom, we spend about $1.5 billion a year on these compact meals on the go.
With the technology we have today, you can press any food into a bar. But that doesn't mean we should press any food into a bar.
Unless, of course, you are someone like climbing guide and explorer Ryan Waters.
I've used power bars on everything I've done, from climbing 8,000-meter peaks such as Mount Everest to skiing across Antarctica.
The typical energy bar contains a blend of glucose and fructose to deliver energy to muscles, sodium to replace lost electrolytes, and plenty of carbs. It's a combination that kept Ryan going at crucial times during 2 trips to the top of the world.
On these extremely high mountains, you're out for as much as 20 hours in a day. There's been times when I've literally just made it back to the high camp because I've had an energy bar in my pocket.
It's history repeating itself. During his expedition across Antarctica, Sir Ernest Shackleton relied on an energy-packed glucose bar called the Kendall Mint Cake. In 1953, the Mint Cake powered Sir Edmund Hillary and his Sherpa, Tenzing Norgay, the first humans ever to reach the top of Everest. Energy bars have changed history by getting us to places we've never been before, and by helping us make it back to tell the story. Fast food number 76 was invented in 1891 and became one of the first mass-produced foods in the world. It's the Fig Newton. More than 10 years before Henry Ford started cranking out Model Ts, James Henry Mitchell invented a machine to stretch and fill pastry dough with fig paste. The first mass production bakery was located outside of Newton, Massachusetts, hence the Fig Newton. Served up hot at number 75 is the hash brown. This dicey potato dish was taken to a new level in 1956 by the Ore-Ida Company when they compressed hash browns into bite-sized pieces. School cafeterias would never be the same. Today, Americans eat more than 70 million pounds of hash browns each year in the form of tater tots. Number 74 is all the rage these days. The cupcake.
To me, the cupcake is sort of the slice of cake for the me generation. It's like, this is mine, I can see the whole thing, it's not a piece of something larger, it's about me.
The cupcake changed the world by putting baking into the hands of even the most illiterate of homemakers. Originally called number cakes, the recipe was easy to remember. 1 cup of butter, 2 cups of sugar, 3 cups of flour, 4 eggs, and voila! Let them eat tiny cakes. Paprika is the devil in the details of fast food number 73, the deviled egg. While the egg has been around forever, the sprinkle of paprika on top signifies a turning point for mankind. Spiced food meant humans weren't just eating to survive. We were preparing complex dishes and eating for pleasure, a cornerstone of modern civilization. Fast food number 72 always comes with a cherry on top. The ice cream sundae.
We love ice cream because it's awesome. I mean, it's just really, really good. It's one of the best foods in the history of the world.
Tell anyone raiding the freezer for a scoop of ice cream topped with syrup that the sundae didn't change the world, and you might get decked. Statistically, 25% of all sundaes are made with scoops of vanilla. Unless, of course, you are building the world's largest one. This monster weighed in at 55,000 pounds and contained a whopping 70 million calories. That's enough ice cream for every man, woman, and child in New York City to grab a spoon and take a bite. The sundae was born in Wisconsin in 1881 as an act of rebellion against so-called blue laws. One law prohibited the consumption of ice cream soda on Sundays, so a clever soda jerk took out the seltzer, added syrup and a cherry, and skirted the law. Americans, it seems, couldn't imagine even one day without their ice cream. Number 71 was the original San Francisco treat, the shrimp cocktail. Sometime around 1860, a San Francisco gold miner dipped oysters into ketchup, and the savory seafood combination was born. After some experimentation, we settled on shrimp, added spice to the ketchup, and created a classic. Today, the huge demand for cheap shrimp is quite literally changing the world. About 60% of Thailand's mangrove forests have been cleared just to farm shrimp. Fighting its way to number 70 from the city of brotherly love is the Philly cheesesteak.
It's so great. And you eat it, and it's delicious. The cheese is all melty. The beef is greasy. It's a kind of a mess. You taste the city when you have a Philly cheesesteak.
With a gut-busting 1,200 calories and 40 grams of fat, the cheesesteak has made its mark on the hearts and waistlines of Philly forever. Number 69 proves bigger doesn't always mean better. Baby carrots.
You know, you could just take a big carrot and cut it up.
As a way to bring food to people who want something fast and good for them, why not?
Since the invention of these pocket-sized snack packs, American consumption of carrots has risen 33%. Now you can buy a wide variety of sliced fruit and veggies, cut, washed, and packaged to go. But none of it would have happened without the baby carrot. Number 68 is our first entree from south of the border. The taco.
You can see into it. The taco, it announces what it's delivering to you, which is pretty cool.
Until the 1960s, most Americans had never tried Mexican food. Then in 1962, the first Taco Bell repackaged this street food to appeal to the average American, changing the fast food world forever.
What Glenn Bell does is create what is a hamburger in a tortilla. This has nothing to do with the taco that is popular in Mexico.
Now, Americans consume more than 2 billion fast food tacos each year, and the door has been opened for authentic Mexican food to thrive in America. At the popular Kogi taco truck in LA, Chef Papi Choi pays homage to the classic, then adds his Korean barbecue for a truly 21st century mashup.
It's just delicious, it's easy to eat, and it comes from a strong culture, even though sometimes we in America don't know exactly why.
Tacos have transformed the world by breaking down cultural barriers, one bite at a time.
With a lot of, foods that we call ethnic, they're really not ethnic in the United States anymore. It's all integrated into this beautiful country of ours.
What culture will help fill the next generation of tacos? No, no one knows. But rest assured, it will be running down your hand as you take that first sloppy bite. Number 67 is a steaming bowl of early American history. Clam chowder.
You're in New England, you're in Boston, you pretty much have to order it at least once. I mean, clam chowder, and probably if we're being correct, we would say clam chowder.
In the 15th and 16th centuries, chowder helped fuel transatlantic explorers, and the kettles it was prepared in were amongst the earliest items to be traded to Native Americans, creating a bond of trust between the old world and the new. This is the 101 fast foods that changed the world. The definitive list of fast and portable foods that have transformed the way we eat forever. Let's take a look at the numbers. Our love of fast food has exploded in recent years. Americans spent $6 billion on fast food in 1970, By 2010, that number had skyrocketed to $165 billion a year. Now, 44% of Americans eat fast food at least once a week, with Alabama spending the most, about 60% of their weekly food budget. And now, back to the countdown. Our troops stormed the beaches, took Iwo Jima, and introduced the world to number 66. It's Spam. Made with processed pork shoulder meat, Hormel Foods introduced Spam in 1937. And the timing couldn't have been better. 4 years later, when America entered World War II, soldiers shipped out with 100 million tons of Spam. And they shared it with islanders in the South Pacific. It changed the diet of locals forever. To this day, people in Hawaii, Guam, and the Philippines are crazy for Spam. Number 65 is one of the sweetest guys on the planet, the Gingerbread Man. The first cookie cutter ever made was a gingerbread man. But it's not just his iconic figure that has changed the world.
Gingerbread may be one of the most influential foods in the history of mankind because it was the desire for those spices that go into gingerbread that launched Europeans on the voyages of discovery.
The spice trade paved the way for Europe to colonize and plunder the riches of the East. Maybe gingerbread men aren't so sweet after all. Number 64 is boldly going where no food has gone before. It's space food. Ever since John Glenn tucked into a mid-orbit snack of applesauce in 1962, we've been trying to keep astronauts from going hungry in the heavens.
So I haven't been in zero gravity, but I imagine this is not the place to have a garden salad where the different little vegetables are floating around in space. That would be hard to eat.
NASA Food Systems Manager Vicki Cloeris and her team are taking space food to new frontiers, trying to develop food that will power future astronauts all the way to Mars.
Chicken with peanut sauce?
Well, that looks good. It's for your mental well-being. It's really a psychological benefit to have good food. You know, it's comfort food. Having some good macaroni and cheese as a snack can make you feel better. That's tasty.
Mike Massimino has flown 2 shuttle missions to repair the Hubble telescope. He ate about 71 meals in zero gravity.
Kind of got to go slow. So you can't be trying to woof a lot of food down your mouth or else it'll be a disaster.
In space, no one can hear you spill a hot coffee.
Thank you.
It's mission critical that no food escapes in the rehydration process. So NASA uses a high-tech system that safely injects water into a pouch of dry food. Without it, water could escape into the cabin and wreak havoc. From packaging to nutrition to taste, the chefs at NASA are coming up with innovative ways to take space food to new interplanetary heights. Number 63 helped stymie the expansion of the Ottoman Empire. The soft pretzel. During the siege of Vienna in 1510, the Turkish army attempted an invasion by tunneling under the city walls. But Vienna's pretzel bakers were already in their kitchens baking and detected the underground sneak attack. They awoke the rest of the city, putting a knot in the Turks' plan to take Vienna. Number 62 is a fast food that made us faster. The waffle. 1972, in a quest to create a lighter running shoe, University of Oregon track coach Bill Bowerman poured liquid urethane over his wife's waffle iron and changed the world forever. When Bowerman peeled away the hardened rubber, the result was a prototype for the waffle pattern shoe sole. Today, almost every sneaker on the planet uses it to make lighter, faster shoes. Fast food number 61 is changing the world in more ways every day. The sunflower seed. Not only do they reduce cholesterol and improve heart health, but they are also being tapped as the alternative fuel of the future. Researchers in the UK have found a way to extract hydrogen from sunflower oil, changing the way automobiles may be powered in the future. Coming in at number 60 is the fast food of the 1%. Caviar.
When the Monopoly man is traveling, he has caviar with him all the time. Most of us are probably going to stick with PB&J.
There's nothing more delicious that you can eat more quickly than caviar. Of course, you have to be really, really, really rich.
But it wasn't always that way. In the 19th century, the east coast of the United States was the world's largest producer of caviar. It was even served up like peanuts for free in bars. That is, until overfishing made it a rare commodity.
So you have this beginning of what starts off, at least in America, as a poor man's food moving on to the haute cuisine today.
The Caviar Kings at Petrosian, New York keep their supply under lock and key at a secret location.
We are in the caviar safe. Basically, we need very cold temperature and dry environments. But after that, I cannot tell you more.
You'd be tight-lipped too with this much consumable capital on hand. With an average cost of about $100 per ounce, Petrosian moves over $30 million of fish eggs each year. The rarest caviar of them all sells for over $10,000 a pound. That's about $10 per tiny fish egg, making it the most expensive luxury food item on the planet. Once a boozy treat for adults, this frothy American classic comes in at number 59. The milkshake.
In the United States, during the time of Prohibition, a lot of bars were turned into ice cream parlors, a place where you could sit and get a wholesome milk-based beverage.
Whiskey and eggs were replaced with malted milk and syrup, and American diner culture was born. Diners became the epicenter of teen social life, and the milkshake was there to launch a generation of romances. Number 58 isn't just a fast food, it's also a legal defense. The Twinkie. At the 1979 trial of Dan White for the murder of San Francisco Mayor George Moscone and Councilman Harvey Milk, the defense team pointed to White's consumption of snack foods like the Twinkie as a telltale sign of depression. He avoided a charge of murder in the first degree, and a new term entered the American legal lexicon, the Twinkie defense, a term still used for any preposterous legal strategy aimed at lessening a criminal charge. Don't touch that dial. Coming in at number 57 is the Salisbury Steak TV Dinner. Developed in 1953 by the Swanson brothers, the TV dinner changed the family dynamic forever. Ready in 25 minutes, the TV dinner helped millions of women put down the apron and jump into the workforce. In their first year, Swanson dished out 10 million TV dinners, making it the first frozen dinner to hit the mainstream. Food number 56 is the treat that sent the dessert world shimmying and shaking. Jell-O.
With the invention of Jell-O, any American housewife could just pick up a little box of Jell-O and create this wonderful, wobbling, multi-hued dessert in no time flat.
But this beloved American dish also helped the Soviets get the atomic bomb after World War II.
It was a great shock when in 1949 the Soviets, years earlier than they were expected to, exploded their own atomic bomb. And suddenly it looked like the United States and potentially the entire free world could maybe be at the mercy of the Soviets.
So how did the Soviets figure out how to make the bomb so quickly? A spy ring led by Julius and Ethel Rosenberg had been smuggling nuclear secrets to the Soviets for years. For one famous meeting, the spies were each instructed to carry a piece of a Jell-O box as proof of identity.
It's June 1945. One morning there's a knock on the door. David Greenglass opens the door, and it's Harry Gold. They invite him in. Greenglass says, "Can I see some identification?" Gold pulls out the Jell-O box, and it's pretty immediately clear that this is the man sent from Soviet intelligence.
4 years later, the Soviets exploded their first atomic bomb, and the arms race was on. We're counting down the 101 fast foods that changed the world. The list was created by a blue ribbon panel of food gurus like Top Chef Spike Mendelsohn and Mitchell Davis of the James Beard Foundation. We left off at number 55. No three letters whet the appetite like the letters BLT. This tasty trio helped drive the powerful Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Every summer, pork belly trading would spike during tomato season, and this $840 trillion market would surge in what industry insiders referred to as the BLT season. A majority of women in Congress got their start selling these. It's the Girl Scout cookie. The Girl Scouts of America sell over 200 million boxes of cookies a year. Since 1917, the annual drive has taught girls the leadership skills necessary to raise almost $1 billion each season. This year, Americans will consume over 100 million pounds of number 53, but it's gonna take some elbow grease. It's the oyster. What makes the oyster such a reluctant snack is the abductor muscle. It can clamp down with over 20 pounds of pressure. The trick to opening one? Insert a knife into the hinge, twist, then gently separate the muscle from the shell.
The oyster is cool because it's so rare in nature that a food provides its own serving vessel. There it is, right on the shell, and you eat it. It's great.
At the Jamestown settlement in Virginia, the first English colonists shucked about 40,000 oysters. Studies of discarded shells show that without oysters, the history of America might have taken a very different path. It turns out the first settlers arrived here in 1607 to find the worst drought for centuries. With no water to grow crops, it was the oyster that helped the fledgling colony hang on and survive their first year in the New World. Whether it's called a samosa, an empanada, or a pasty, number 52 was the first full meal on the go. It's the meat pie. Convenience has been a catalyst of food innovation for centuries. The meat pie led to the rise of a handheld food industry that now draws in over $1 billion a year. Fast food number 51 was meant to be the culinary equivalent of a cold shower. The graham cracker. In 1829, Presbyterian minister Sylvester Graham invented a hard, bland cracker aimed at curbing unhealthy carnal urges.
You read about this in ancient Greek times, that there was the idea that there were foods that were hot, that would get you too excited. So graham crackers would be like the anti-Viagra.
The Right Reverend would be mortified by the sinful sugar and cinnamon treats that carry his name today. Okay. We're halfway through our countdown of the 101 fast foods that changed the world. We've seen how Tootsie Rolls saved Marines during the Korean War, how the fortune cookie changed the lives of 110 lucky lottery winners, and how space food has allowed us to explore the heavens. But that pales in comparison to the way the next 50 foods have changed the world. Let's start with a tactical move to number 50. It's the MRE, or Meal Ready to Eat. Developed as a compact and complete military ration, the MRE has given our troops the edge since 1983.
If you're going to win a war, you need to be fed, and the MRE is the ultimate solution to that problem.
U.S. commanders have always understood that without good food, even the most well-oiled military machine will come to a grinding halt. At basic training at Fort Jackson, Army drill sergeants are passing that wisdom on to the next generation of soldiers.
All right, soldiers, I'm going to give you a quick class on how to eat an MRE, all right? Sergeant.
Each rugged little pouch contains a total of 14 pieces. A main course, side dish, dessert, and a heating element.
They even tossed in a moist towelette for you.
The MRE played a crucial role in the success of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003, helping the Army eat for over 2 months without access to fresh food.
A well-fed Army is absolutely an effective Army. Keep a soldier fed and happy, and they're going to perform well.
Completely empty. It was delicious. I ate the whole thing.
Before the MRE, soldiers relied on these to boost morale. And for that, our panel voted this candy number 49, M&M's. In 1941, the Army picked a brand new candy called the M&M to send to the front.
M&Ms become popular during World War II with soldiers because they can be consumed in the tropics, they can be consumed in the desert, and they can be easily moved from one place to another because they melt in your mouth, not in your hands.
Today, Mars churns out over 400 million M&Ms a day, making them the biggest selling candy on the planet. Number 48 is proof that man can live on bread alone. Hardtack.
Hardtack was used by sailors and by soldiers as a military ration that wouldn't go bad very easily. You could take it with you. It was relatively light, relatively portable, and high in calories.
This tooth-busting bread changed the way wars were waged by allowing troops to extend military campaigns for years. Its shelf life was so long, hardtack made for the Civil War was reissued almost 40 years later during the Spanish-American War. Number 47 is smothered in Southern culture, but when you get to the bottom of it, it's British through and through. Biscuits and gravy. The white flour biscuit was spread around the globe via British colonialism. It was considered a rare treat and helped strengthen ties to the crown in every corner of the globe.
They become associated with status, they become associated with culture, they become associated with empire, become associated with the queen.
So far, our list includes 31 savory foods and only 23 sweet foods. Across the U.S., snack foods like potato chips and pretzels slightly outsell candy products by about 4%. And it's clear who buys what. Studies have shown that women tend to crave sweets, while men prefer salty and savory foods. Is it the gyro? Is it the hero? Nope. Number 46 is pronounced the gyro. Because the meat is so inexpensive, the gyro is the only fast food sandwich proven to be recession-proof. Business is booming in Greece, where 3 billion gyros were sold last year during the debt crisis. No trip to the Big Easy would be complete without trying number 45. The New Orleans Po' Boy.
You've got the great ingredients. It could be fried shrimp, it could be fried oysters, it could be anything. You can put anything you want in a po' boy.
The thing you can't describe with your taste buds is what a po' boy makes you feel right here in your soul.
At the Parkway Bakery and Tavern, Justin Kennedy fills over 1,000 bellies a day, paying homage to the moment in 1929 that the po' boy was born. New Orleans was engulfed in a violent streetcar strike. As the conflict wore on, grocery store owners Benny and Clovis Martin supported the strikers by making them sandwiches.
The brothers would see another streetcar worker coming up. They'd say, hey, get him a sandwich. Let's feed another poor boy.
Food plays a very important part in social movements, and you can't have a movement without having the food to sustain it.
Today, the po' boy is the democratic comfort food of New Orleans. Even the commander-in-chief has stopped by Parkway to get his po' boy fix.
11 o'clock that morning, sewage and water board worker came in. Must have been working all through the night. Filthy, dirty. Got a shrimp sandwich, shook his hand. 4 hours later, the President of the United States of America gets the same damn thing. You know? That's when you know you got something.
Number 44, fast food that comes with a prize in each box. The Cracker Jack. This concoction of popcorn, molasses, and peanuts came out in 1896 and changed the way we snacked.
All other snack foods will follow in the model that is created by Cracker Jack. This is where you will begin to have a snack food industry.
Today, that industry is worth $330 billion a year, all thanks to Cracker Jack. We are counting down the 101 fast foods that changed the world. Coming up with the list was no easy feat, so we called in the experts. The most innovative chefs, food critics, and culinary aficionados put their minds and taste buds together to rank the most important fast foods of all time. Number 43 is considered by many to be the world's first fast food meal. Fish and chips. In 1860, the combination of fish and chips swept Britain, becoming the quintessential meal of the working man. But it also kicked off 150 years of overfishing cod that has now made fish and chips a pricey dish. Number 42 was America's first chocolate bar for the masses. The Hershey Bar.
Milton Hershey comes along and figures out how to commercially make it with machines. And this will create the chocolate industry that we all know and love today.
Really made it feel like it was a little gift, you know, a little slice of heaven. That's what you're getting when you unwrap this beautiful little chocolate bar. You're going to get like a little bit of the good life.
But it didn't just transform America. It changed the lives of a generation of kids in post-war Germany. 1948, West Berlin. The Soviets had cut off supply routes, and the city was starving.
The food was gone. Everything was cut off. They're desperate for something to eat.
27-year-old pilot Gail Halverson noticed a group of kids hanging out at the end of the airstrip and gave them special instructions.
When I come into land, I'm going to drop enough chocolate for all of you to have, if you'll share it. Y'all, they said, we'll share the chocolate, we'll share it.
The next day, Halverson tipped his wings as a signal and dropped parachutes, each with a Hershey bar attached. Within a few years, Uncle Wiggly Wings, as he came to be known, dropped over 20 tons of candy to the kids of West Berlin. At age 92, Halverson is still at it.
I'm ready to go, and we're going to wiggle the wings.
Today's mission, a Christmas drop for the kids of Outer Banks, North Carolina. Every year, Halverson delights a new generation of children and commemorates the drops that gave the kids of Berlin hope.
Okay, I think that no matter where you are in the world as a child, if you see candy falling from the sky, it's a pretty good day.
You can pop number 41 in your mouth, but you might want to think twice about it. The hot pepper.
The hot pepper is very important. It's one of those new world foods that traveled and changed the world, changed cuisine.
The hot pepper spread across the globe, setting fire to Indian food and putting the zing in Thai. Today, we've bred hot peppers that will literally blow your mind. At over 400 times hotter than Tabasco sauce, the Trinidad Moruga Scorpion takes the crown as the hottest pepper on the planet. And they're best eaten in moderation. Americans eat more of number 40 than the real deal. It's processed cheese. Legally, it must be called cheese food as it only contains about 51% real cheese. Processed cheese opened the door for a whole world of cheap alternative foods that have more to do with science than nature. Take processed cheese, add bread, and you've got number 39. The grilled cheese sandwich. Originally presented open-faced in the 1920s and called the cheese dream through the 50s, this dish got us through hard times. The grilled cheese helped families stretch the dollar and made the Depression a little less depressing. Number 38 has earned a reputation as the sweet treat that makes cops go nuts. It's the donut. Americans eat about 11 billion of these calorie bombs a year, but no one takes as much heat as cops for loving donuts.
Oh, we get a lot of cops in here. We do have a lot of police that come in here. They're dedicated, they come in quietly. They just walk in, they get their donuts, and they leave.
Dennis Giblion would know. He and his business partners at Blue Dot Donuts are all New Orleans cops.
Donut shop run by cops?
That's right. About a year ago, these cops embraced the stereotype and got into the donut business, much to the amusement of the boys down at the precinct.
It never ends. It never ends. I mean, every day it's like donut boy and all that stuff. They're jealous. They're jealous.
But where did the joke about cops and donuts start?
One of the best theories is that donut shops used to be open 24 hours. And any time of day or night, a cop who was on the beat could drop by, warm themselves up with a cup of joe and a donut.
Before the 24/7 convenience store, the donut shop was the only place a cop could grab a midnight snack and go. Today, the source of the joke is lost to history, but the punchline remains. Thanks to America's first late-night snack.
Damn, that's good. Crazy good.
This potato pastry has apparently been deciding New York elections for generations. Number 37 is the Knish. It's been said that no New York politician has been elected in the last 50 years without having at least one photograph taken on the Lower East Side with a Knish in his face. Number 36 is the original road food, matzah. When Moses and the Jews were on the run from slavery in Egypt, they didn't exactly have time to bake a traditional loaf of bread.
I don't know that any other food on the list has been road tested for portability quite the way matzah was.
Today, Jews still pay homage to the Exodus by munching matzah during Passover. 50 years ago, fast food number 35 was considered scrap meat that couldn't be given away. The Buffalo Wing. In 1964, Teresa Bellissimo of Buffalo, New York, changed all that. She cooked up a plate of scrap wings for her hungry son and turned the poultry industry on its head. The wing now adds almost $4.5 billion worth of value to the poultry industry each year. Number 34 is coming to you in the blink of an eye. Chinese takeout. If you want to know how Chinese food changed the world, consider this. Today, there are more Chinese restaurants in the U.S. than McDonald's, Burger King's, KFC's, and Taco Bell's combined. At Hop Key in New York City, Peter Lee and his family have been getting food out the door at lightning speeds for over 40 years.
I've called for Chinese takeout, and, you know, I can't believe I hang up the phone and there's the doorbell. I don't know how they do it.
So what's the secret? Hours of prep work ensures everything is ready to go when an order comes in. And the reason the food is always piping hot when it arrives at your front door? It's partly because of the packaging. The classic takeout box is a single piece of paper folded into a leak-proof container and secured with a wire handle. Once it's packed, the tapered shape funnels heat upwards to keep your Kung Pao chicken at just the right temperature. But America's reaction to Chinese food was lukewarm at best when it was introduced in the late 19th century.
They find very quickly that mainstream Americans really did not like Chinese food, and so they started to create new types of food.
Chinese chefs adapted and created dishes with fewer vegetables, more meat, and thicker, sweeter sauces.
The American culture loves Chinese food. Everybody loves Chinese food. They love our food, but they don't know how to make it. I think that's the thing.
Number 33 has built an empire on the simple fact that it's impossible to eat just one. The chip. The potato chip rules as America's #1 snack food, but it's the corn chip that helped establish a great civilization. When the Aztecs started processing cornmeal with wood ash to make tortillas, they inadvertently added tons of amino acids to their diet. Scientists think these vital nutrients gave them the energy to build a vast empire. Number 32 was invented by mistake in 1930. It's the chocolate chip cookie. When Ruth Wakefield mixed a batch of chocolate cookies using a chocolate bar instead of traditional baker's chocolate, the chunks didn't blend with the dough, and the world was changed forever. Wakefield's batch of botched cookies triggered a revolution.
Chocolate chip cookies really got a lot of Americans who wouldn't go into the kitchen to bake.
Today, 50% of all cookies baked in America are chocolate chip. That adds up to about 3.5 billion cookies baked every year. It's thought that number 31 helped save ancient Persians during a fuel crisis. It's the shish kebab. By 800 BC, the people of ancient Greece began cooking bite-sized meat chunks over small fires to stretch cooking fuel. This new cooking process paved the way for thousands of years of street vendors. Number 30 may be the oldest fast food on the planet. The date.
Dates are incredibly dense in calories, but they also have other micronutrients, iron, things like that. So in some ways, if you had to survive on just one food, you would do better to survive on dates than on bread.
The production of highly nutritious dates in ancient Mesopotamia was one of the driving forces behind the beginning of the world's first civilization. At number 29, our blue ribbon panel chose Japan's most famous culinary export, sushi.
If anyone had told me in the 1950s that somebody would be eating raw fish, I would have thought they were crazy. They would have been taken off to the funny farm.
What started as a simple dish of fish and rice in 19th century Japan became a global sensation over the next 100 years. Sushi was on a roll in the U.S. by the 1980s, with the number of sushi restaurants quintupling by 2000. With its growing popularity, concerns about consuming raw fish abated. But for some, the potential risk is the attraction, and they seek it out. And none is more infamous than the poisonous pufferfish known as fugu.
In this country, only one way legally getting from Japan.
Chef Morimoto's restaurant in New York City is one of only 17 that can serve fugu in the U.S., as the toxin is 1,000 times more powerful than cyanide.
Oh no!
And it ain't cheap.
This is a fugu sashimi. Guess how much? $80.
You'd think a food this expensive that could potentially kill you is going to be the best thing you ever ate, right?
Surprise is that for all the risk and all of the ritual around consuming fugu, it actually doesn't have much flavor.
I'd rather just have a piece of salmon. Forget all the drama. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Let's just leave the food alone.
We're counting down the 101 fast foods that changed the world. So how fast is fast? The average time spent at a McDonald's drive-thru from placing an order to driving away is 2 minutes and 36 seconds. So let's not waste another moment and get back to the countdown. Number 28 is the first fast food to pass our lips. Infant formula.
Through science, we tried to replicate all the nutrients that are in mother's milk and create infant formula, which was very freeing for many, many women.
Feminists call it women's lib in a can, and by 1970, 75% of newborns were being fed with formula. It helped pave the way for an entire generation of mothers to get higher education and enter the male-dominated workplace. Our panel put the most influential dried fruit in history at number 27, the raisin. When Hannibal made his legendary crossing of the Alps, he kept the Carthaginian army going with raisins. Safely through the mountains, they caught the Roman army off guard and almost brought down an empire. Believe it or not, eating number 26 during a movie used to be considered low class. Popcorn. All that changed during the Great Depression. With attendance down, theaters embraced popcorn to boost profits. Today, popcorn is a main attraction, accounting for nearly 40% of theaters' revenue. Number 25 kept cowboys moseying down that dusty trail. It's chili. Between 1866 and 1885, Texas cowboys drove about 20 million head of cattle north to Kansas and invented chili along the way.
You got to try to imagine, not only cowboys had a tough job on them trail drives, but so did the cook.
Chili was born out of resourcefulness. Take whatever meat you had, throw in some wild herbs and chilies from along the trail, and you had a hot meal. Chili kept cowboys fed and helped power the cattle boom. And in the mid-1800s, it's chili that may have saved Fort Worth, Texas from bloodshed. Frank and Jesse James, two of America's most notorious bank robbers, loved the chili in Fort Worth so much they vowed never to rob the bank, stating, "Any place that has a chili joint like this just ought to be treated better." This fast food is more than just a quick dinner fix. It helped feed an entire nation. Number 24 is Kraft macaroni and cheese. Once meat and dairy rationing began during World War II, Americans embraced the box of cheesy goodness. At the cost of 2 boxes per ration card, 80 million were sold in 1943 alone. About half a box for every man, woman, and child in America. When Keith Kellogg toasted up some stale dough back in 1894, little did he know he had created fast food number 23. Cornflakes.
Breakfast used to be something that was porridges that would take a long time to cook. Society was changing and people needed something quick for breakfast, something healthy. It was a wonderful revolution.
Cornflakes became the first packaged, ready-to-eat cereal, giving us a whole new breakfast option. Today, about 40% of the world starts their day with a bowl of cereal. Over 50% of kids leave the house for school with number 22 in their lunchbox. The peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
If you're a parent, you got kids in the morning and you're in a rush, you got to pack a lunch for them, what's easier than slapping on peanut butter and jelly in the sandwich with some chips and goodbye?
The average child will eat about 1,500 PB&Js by the time they graduate from high school. It's a perfect pairing that gives kids what they need to get through the day. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter contain about 10 grams of protein to help the body and brain grow. On the sweet side, jelly adds 26 grams of carbs, boosting short and long-term energy. But it's adults who consume 2/3 of all peanut butter and jelly sold each year.
I had peanut butter and jelly for breakfast today, and I think that they're amazing.
It is first an upper class food, and by the 1920s, when the Depression will hit, it becomes a lower class food. Low cost, high protein, good food.
And it is still the food of tough times. Thanks to the recession, 2011 saw the sales of peanut butter jump a whopping 9%. Some call them submarines, others call them heroes. But in Philadelphia, there's only one name for number 21. The Hoagie. Legend has it the Hoagie was named after Hog Island, a naval shipyard in Philly. During World War I, Italian shipbuilders would lunch on gigantic sandwiches piled high with the works. The concoction came to be known as the Hoggie, and later, the Hoagie. We've made it to the top 20 of the 101 fast foods that changed the world. Our Blue Ribbon panel voted, and these are the game changers. These are the foods you can't imagine living without, and the ones that have changed history forever. And now, back to the countdown. Number 20. It's been the saving grace of college students for decades. Instant noodles.
This is the only food on our list where all you have to do is add hot water and then boom, you have a meal.
In 1958, Momofuku Ando flash-fried some noodles and invented the most impactful product ever to come out of Japan. Today, 95 billion packages of instant noodles are sold every year. That's more noodles than Japanese cars, televisions, computers, and DVD players sold in the entire history of Japan.
It's easy, it's inexpensive, and it's comforting. You got the 3 things that people like.
And it's why instant noodles have also become a lifesaver. May 2011, a massive tsunami rocks the coast of Japan. Without electricity and very little water, hundreds of thousands of people survived for weeks on instant noodles. It turns out Japan's biggest export helped save countless lives right at home. Take a little dough, fill it, wrap it up, and you have fast food number 19. The dumpling. Travelers ate dumplings along the Silk Road as early as the 1st century, spreading the idea across continents. From Chinese wontons to the Polish pierogi, dumplings fed the masses for hundreds of years. Filled with what was on hand, dumplings fed whole families by stretching meats and other ingredients farther during hard times, like chicken and dumplings did throughout the Great Depression. Number 18 has become one of the biggest selling fast foods of this generation. The burrito. When you add up all the tortillas, beans, meat, lettuce, salsa, guacamole, and rice used to make burritos, you're looking at nearly $128 billion rolled into the U.S. economy, with nearly $2 billion spent on tortillas alone. That's a stimulus plan most of us can get behind. Outside of sugar and coffee, number 17 flies off the shelf faster than any other food in the grocery store. Canned tuna. Americans eat about 1 billion pounds of canned tuna each year, 83% of it for lunch.
For me, canned tuna is one of the most important foods on the list.
The practicality of canned food cannot be understated. You can go anywhere in the world, and if you have a can of tuna with you, you're not going to die. That's an amazing thing.
About 100 years ago, fishermen in California gave landlocked America its first taste of tuna via the can, and it took off.
You have this beginning of the tuna industry, which starts off because people think the tuna that's in the can tastes like chicken.
By the 1950s, fishermen had abandoned their poles and developed more efficient ways of catching tuna. But it came with a very unfortunate side effect: millions of dead dolphins. In 1988, a video exposing this grim side of the modern tuna industry shocked the world. It resulted in dolphin-safe tuna and demonstrated for the first time the power of the people to impact the food industry. We're racing towards the single digits. This fast food used to make the world turn. And for that, our panel voted it number 16. The olive. In the ancient world, olive oil helped build the largest trade networks known to man. The Romans used it to power their economy and built the greatest empire in the world. 332 million tons of fast food number 15 is grown in the U.S. each year, yet we only eat about 0.3% of the crop. It's corn on the cob.
Corn has become ubiquitous in our culture and society. It's food, it's fuel, it's feed for our livestock.
Corn was first grown 7,000 years ago by the people of central Mexico. It allowed the Aztecs to build a vast empire, and it was the first thing American Indians showed colonists how to grow in the New World.
There would not be a United States without corn and corn production by Native Americans.
Today, over 800 million tons of corn are produced worldwide, more than any other crop on the planet. It's been called the hamburger of the Middle East. Number 14 is the falafel. Made with mashed fava beans, falafel was invented 1,000 years ago by Coptic Christians in Egypt as a meatless alternative for Lent. Once falafel made it to Israel, cooks replaced fava beans with chickpeas. The debate over the ingredients remains a hot-button topic between Arabs and Jews in an already tense Middle East. Our most cultured fast food comes in at number 13. Yogurt. The average cup has about 700 billion microorganisms in it, promoting healthy digestion. It's thought yogurt was discovered during the Bronze Age when bacteria caused a supply of milk to ferment accidentally. It tasted good enough for man to try again, making yogurt one of the first processed foods in the world. At number 12 is the ethnic underdog that made it to the mainstream, the bagel. We eat bagels to the tune of almost $500 million a year. But Davidovich Bakery in Queens is the only wholesale company in the world making bagels the old-fashioned way, by hand.
A real bagel is hand-rolled, cattle boiled, made on wooden planks in the oven. Anything short of that is bread that looks like a bagel.
100 years ago, Jewish immigrants in New York made all bagels by hand. Then in the 1950s, Harry Lender started mass producing and freezing bagels. It allowed the rest of the country to taste the best-kept culinary secret in New York.
They will not become popular in America in the mainstream until the 1960s and 1970s.
Now, bread makers crank out 40 million bags of bagels a year. But purist small batch outfits like Davidovich will hopefully always be there to keep us connected to the roots of this iconic New York food.
New York uses the Big Apple as the logo. I think it should use the Big Bagel.
Fast food number 11 gave us the cure for spoiled meat. It's cold cuts. Smoked and cured meats have been a staple in America from the very first settlers at Jamestown all the way into the 21st century. Today, these processed meats are a $30 billion industry. We've hit a milestone, the top 10 of the 101 fast foods that changed the world. We've seen how the Hershey bar helped heal the wounds of the Cold War, how corn helped us survive in the New World, and we've seen how infant formula fostered a revolution in the workplace. Now we unveil the very best of the best, the top 10 fast foods of all time. Without fast food number 10, the burger wouldn't be the same. French fries.
If there's one odor that drives people to McDonald's, it's that deep frying potato. That's a greater sell than any commercial.
On average, they make up about 13% of every fast food meal sold. But it wasn't really that long ago that the fry teamed up with its more famous partner.
When World War II comes along, you have beef that's rationed, and you have these fast food establishments built on hamburgers that can't sell a hamburger, and so they've got to move to other things.
By the 1950s, demand for French fries was booming. That's when Ray Kroc, owner of McDonald's, sought out a way to pre-make them.
What they developed was a frozen product, partially cooked, that they can then just pop in the fry-later, and out comes this wonderful crispy French fry.
Today, 1 out of every 3 fries eaten in the U.S. comes from a McDonald's fry-later, accounting for 7% of all the potatoes grown in the U.S. French fries have rocked our world. But without number 9, we might still be dragging our knuckles on the ground. Barbecue. With an average cook time of only 5 minutes, the perfect backyard ribeye isn't just a symbol of male pride. It made us who we are today.
The most important difference between humans and other primates is cooking, and that starts off with barbecue. So that makes us human.
The latest theories on evolution suggest that hunting and grilling helped us break away from the primates and pave the way for modern man.
But at some point, 2.6 million years ago, some Homo habilis made it probably the most important discovery in human history. The ability to break certain kinds of rocks and create this edge, open the door to the processing of meat.
With tools, we went from prey to predators. And then we figured out how to make fire. Cooking made meat easier to digest and gave us the energy required to kick human evolution into overdrive. So the next time you're hosting a 4th of July barbecue, remember, you have the caveman to thank for the entire spread.
Man, meat, and fire. A potent combination.
Grilled meat may have helped us stand upright, but dried meat helped us go out and explore. Fast food number 8 is jerky. A handful of jerky contains enough energy to get the average person through the day.
Jerky is kind of what powered American exploration. If you are going out into the unknown, you have no idea what you will eat next. If you keep some beef jerky, you'll probably be okay, at least for a while.
This protein-packed food was instrumental in pushing the American frontier further and further west.
Probably the premier chronicler of the use of jerky in the United States were Lewis and Clark, because on their expedition, they were constantly within sight, when they could be, of a bison herd, and utilizing the meat as much as possible.
Lewis and Clark were astounded by the number of bison roaming the plains. Often they would feast on vast amounts of fresh meat, eating up to 9 pounds per person every day. But there were lean times as well.
You might be crossing a mountain range, you might be crossing a desert. That's where bison jerky would shine.
Jerky helped Lewis and Clark connect this country from sea to shining sea, paving the way for generations of pioneers to head west. Over 3 billion of these will be sold this year in the U.S. And for that, our panel put this fast food at number 7. Pizza.
I think pizza is one of the most important foods because back in the early 1900s, we did not embrace ethnic food. This was one of the first foods that came over that first bite, people fell in love.
And it all started right here at Lombardi's in Little Italy.
Lombardi's was opened in 1905, and it was the first pizzeria in the United States.
Fresh off the boat from Italy, Gennaro Lombardi started making Naples-style pizza in the back of his grocery store in 1897. Within a few years, it was more than just Italian immigrants who wanted a piece of the pie.
It was like a tree that branched out, and pizza became what it is today.
94% of Americans eat pizza on a regular basis. If you laid out all the pies we eat every year, it would cover almost 37,000 acres, enough pizza to cover the entire city of Washington, D.C.
Now, all over Italy and all over the world, in Japan, in China, in India, you have what is essentially this hybrid of Italian and American pizza.
Pizza has even helped fuel a revolution. During the Arab Spring in 2011, Libyan rebels ate 10,000 slices a day, giving them the sustenance needed to topple the Gaddafi regime. We hope you saved some room. This is the final stretch of the 101 fast foods that changed the world. For the 6th most important fast food of all time, our panel chose the first sweetener known to man. It's honey. Honey has been an easy grab since the dawn of time. Once honeybees do all the work, that is. They fly enough miles to circle the globe in order to gather the nectar for just 1 pound of honey.
Honey is so different from a lot of the foods on this list because it's not processed, it's not assembled, it's just there. The bees make it and we take it. It's great.
But honey hasn't just made life sweeter. It has changed the world with its healing properties as well.
The medical uses of honey actually go back thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians used honey for a variety of different medical reasons.
Before pharmaceuticals, honey was a lifesaver, used all the way through World War I as a topical dressing to help heal wounds. Now it's making a comeback. Researchers have found that Manuka honey from New Zealand contains a powerful antibacterial agent.
It also has a high sugar content, so it's going to help to pull out all of that unnecessary fluid from your wound bed and really help to clean it up as well. It's like putting your wound through a car wash.
Now it's putting a dent in the $25 billion of healthcare spent every year on chronic wounds. Okay, that means we're about to unveil the top 5 most significant fast foods of all time. Get ready for the best of the best. For number 5, our panel chose a Southern specialty made from the most widely consumed animal on the planet: fried chicken.
Fried chicken is my favorite food on this list. I mean, we serve fried chicken at my wedding. That's my commitment to fried chicken.
Annual consumption of chicken in America has more than doubled since 1970 to a whopping 87 pounds per person. We literally eat it by the bucket.
Fried chicken is one of the most iconic American foods there is. It's just up there with apple pie.
At Jacquemo's in New Orleans, owner-chef Jacques Leonardi plays the role of culinary Mary Prankster.
I play around with everything. I change things. It's kind of psychedelic. We have a great time here, but we just don't mess with the fried chicken.
Fried chicken is a food born from slavery, and it stayed strictly Southern until the Great Migration of rural African Americans to urban areas in the 1920s.
Fried chicken was one of those culinary traditions that African Americans brought with them out of the South, and that's how it spread throughout many parts of the United States.
By the late 1950s, Southern fried chicken had gone mainstream. So how did it change the world?
It's a greater part of American cultural imperialism. And if we think about those things that go out, basketball, rock and roll, fried chicken, there's nothing more American than those.
If it weren't for number 4, America might not exist. The pickle. When a Spanish pickle salesman named Amerigo Vespucci joined an expedition to the New World in 1499, he brought barrels of them along to help prevent outbreaks of scurvy. If the crew hadn't made it across the Atlantic, who knows what America would be called today? This food was the catalyst for an entire government to be overthrown, and for that, our experts voted this fruit number 3. It's the banana. At a cost of less than 50 cents a pound, America is bananas for the banana. We eat an average of 26 pounds of them a year.
You don't have to wash it because everything you're going to eat is inside. You can keep it in your bag, open it up, and peel it. It's brilliant.
The banana was captivating from the moment we laid eyes on it.
In 1876, there was a World's Fair in Philadelphia, and next to Alexander Graham Bell's telephone, the longest line was to see a banana.
They had to place a guard in front of the banana tree for fear that people would take the bananas. They were that unusual.
Once the exotic fruit caught on, an importer called the United Fruit Company bought up huge amounts of farmland in Central America in what came to be called banana republics.
United Fruit actually owned the radio systems, the newspapers, the train stations, the tracks. They owned these countries, and in fact, many of these countries weren't countries before the banana companies arrived.
But when a newly elected president vowed to give United Fruit the boot from Guatemala, the company made a call to some friends in high places.
John Foster Dulles was Eisenhower's Secretary of State. His brother, Allen Dulles, was director of the CIA and a board member of United Fruit.
The result? The brothers had the CIA train an opposition army to invade Guatemala and topple the government.
We were told we were fighting communism in Guatemala. The truth is, we were overthrowing a democratic elected government because a banana company wanted us to.
The banana may be the most political fast food out there, but number 2 is considered to be the most American fast food. The hot dog. Nothing says 4th of July like the hot dog. We consume 155 million on Independence Day alone. making the hot dog one of America's top icons.
We don't really know what's inside them, but the delicious taste of them blocks out that question from your mind.
Champion competitive eater Takeru Kobayashi spends about 7.5 seconds considering what's in each hot dog he eats. On July 4th, 2011, he broke his personal record, putting down 69 hot dogs in 10 minutes. Exactly 95 years before that, competitive eating was born, thanks to the 4th of July hot dog. In 1916, 4 immigrants decided to have a Coney Island hot dog eating contest to prove who was more patriotic. Today, it's a televised sport, with competitors eating everything from chicken wings to cow brains.
ホットドッグではなくて、僕が一番好きなの寿司かな、コンテストの中ではね。
We've given you 100 fast foods that changed the world. So what is number 1? Here are some hints. This food may have started as a cousin to number 98, steak tartare. Before you take a bite, you might want to top it with number 41, hot peppers, or number 25, chili. And it goes perfectly with number 59, the milkshake, and number 10, French fries. About 75 are sold every second of every day across the globe, adding up to over 15 billion a year. You got it. Our choice for the number 1 fast food that changed the world is the hamburger.
I think when you think of American fast food, the first thing you're going to think about is burger. That's the way it's got to be.